Well, hi everybody. Welcome to my channel, Wisconsin Hugs. My name is Tony Grillo, and I am right parked here in Middleton, Wisconsin, which is right next to Madison. I am delivering a load of like cane sugar from for Claussen Chocolate out of their plant in Watertown. Had to bring it over here to their other plant here in Middleton, Wisconsin. So this is where I am, and this spot right here it's actually kind of tricky to back into because it's a little tight. I had to really I had to turn it wide, like over there. I had to get as close to the building as I could over there, turn it as wide as I could. The back end of my trailer as tight to that building as I can. Then I had to take, this corner, go as wide as I can and as far out as I can over here, as far out as I can. And then I had to turn over towards that building, and half my trailer is like my back wheels would drive right over that lawn and that thing, but I didn't want to do that. So I had to try to, swing my back trailer so I could get as wide to that door as I could. And yeah, it took me about 10 minutes to get this trailer in here. And even the guy told me, that works here. He said, yeah, it's a tough spot to back into. But yeah, I've been doing this a while. So anyways, I put on a little bit of weight. So, I'm right now, I weighed myself. I was at like 284, and I was like, my shirts, all my clothes are tight, and I lost like 100 pounds about, I don't know, like back in 2016. So that was a while ago. That was like 7 years ago. And I was really skinny, and I ran a half marathon, and then slowly the weight started coming back on, and COVID hit, and and I was working and like a lot during that time period, and just I slacked, and I didn't work out, and I wasn't counting calories, and so the weight just slowly went back up to where I am, where I was when I first started losing the weight. So now I'm back at it again, and I was going to show you all this. I decided finally to get myself a notepad, and so I started it last weekend, day one, on Monday. And the goal is to get down to 1,800 calories a day, because when you get down to 1,800, you can lose a half a pound a day. Your body, can maintain normal weight at like 3,300 calories. If you go above 3,300, then you'll gain weight. If you stay below 3,300, you start losing weight. You could theoretically, you can lose. You can, if you eat the right food and feed your body's a machine. You feed it right, you can survive on 1,800 calories and still get all the vitamins and everything you need. But I haven't got to that point yet. But like right here, first day, I was so hungry, I hit 4,000. So not a good day for me. And then the next day, I got it down to 27, 25, and I do count calories, or exercise. So, if I walk 1 mile, that's 100 calories I burned. And so here we were, I walked 1 mile there, and trying to get the exercise in there as well. So yeah, there's my dog's barking. This guy there hauling, I don't know if that came out of my trailer, but he's hauling some stuff over there. And DJ, he loves barking, don't you, DJ? So yeah, and so this is now I got day 4, I was at 28, and then here I did really good on day 5. I got to 230 right there. I stayed, so now I'm starting to get close to it. Usually it takes about a week to adjust to the changes. Saturday, I was keeping track up until I was at 1,700, but then we went out Saturday night, and I probably added another like 1,500 calories, so I'm probably back up around 3,200. And Sunday, I didn't keep track, so now I'm back at it on Monday, but we're gonna see how it goes. I noticed over the weekend, like, I weighed myself and I'm at 281. So I started at 284 and now I'm at 281. So we'll see if I can drop below 280 this week. So yeah, I'll check in from time to time and I'll let you guys know where I'm at on that. And I'm gonna try to start getting back on exercising, and I'm going to set goals, and that's how you do it. Like one of the goals is I'd like to go back and run another half marathon. So that's a goal of mine, like next summer, but I got to shrink a little bit. I got to, not a little bit, a lot. I need to drop, I'd like to get back down to like 210, 215 is a really good weight for me. That's where I was at when I ran the marathon. And so that's what I got going on there. And then, I don't know, today's video, I'm probably going to talk about two subjects. And I hope it doesn't get too long, but we'll just see. Sometimes I ramble. One of the things I'm going to talk a little bit about is something that I caught my attention from a video I was watching, where a guy was saying that he had died and came back. And he was up in heaven, and he had some interesting things to say about that experience. But one thing really caught my attention, and that was the fact that he claimed he met with his guardians, and that he said one of the things that the guardians do, the guardian angels, everybody has them. Everybody has guardian angels. We all have them. I mean, God even... It's written in the Bible to say, woe to those that harm a child, because that child's guardian angels will be coming after you. So, that means we all have them. And these guardians, what they do is they're up in heaven and they're watching over us. That's all they do. That's their job, is to watch over us, all of us, And one of the things that they do is they try to communicate with us. And a lot of times they do it with numbers. And so I found that rather interesting, because I noticed, and other people that I know, that I'm friends with, they've also mentioned it too, that they said, certain numbers are like a warning. Something bad might be, like maybe 66. If you keep seeing the number 66 or 666, that might be a warning that, you pay attention, because something bad might happen that day. And other numbers might be good numbers, like maybe some people see 333, or some people see 111, or 1111, like 4 ones, or maybe 7s or whatever. And I always noticed, when good things seem to happen to me, I would see the number 234, and that's what I would always see. And the very first trailer I hauled this morning was 53234. So when I saw that, I thought, oh, okay, well, I hope today's going to be a good day, So this was a message, a text I got from my work, and I was supposed to pick up trailer 53234 to go to Clawson and Watertown. And then I was supposed to pick up a load and bring it over here to Middleton. So the very first trailer I hauled out of there was the empty trailer. That's what MT stands for, empty. And yeah, it was number 53234. And then I thought I'd share this post to you. I actually wrote this post 2 days ago. So just to let you know, I wasn't messing with all your heads. Happy Friday. It's been a while since I shared some thoughts with all of you, so I'm going to have some fun here today. One of the best episodes of Star Trek TNG had the Enterprise blow up in the first 30 seconds of the show. That was actually in season 1. And at that time, I'm a big Star Trek fan, but, Star Trek ratings-wise, it was doing okay, but it wasn't doing great, And the writing was kind of weak. and it hadn't developed its audience yet. In fact, I think they went through 30 different writers in the very first season of that show. And they were trying, Gene Roddenberry was ahead of it. He was also writing episodes, and, they hadn't quite figured out, how to approach the show, what they should be doing, what kind of, show they, Gene Roddenberry was still doing like a Alien of the Week, Flavor of the Week, Alien Flavor of the Week episode. And so they weren't quite sure, and that formula wasn't working very well. And it wasn't until the later formula where they realized, hey, we got these really cool, people that are starring in this show. Why don't we write about episodes about them living in this world, this future world, and we'll develop their characters instead of, doing a show every week about a different alien flavor of the week. We're gonna do episodes concentrating on their stories, and that's when the show really took off. And they also created the Borg, which I guess it was a Miami Vice guy that did that. He was on Miami Vice. He never did science fiction. He got hired on by Gene Roddenberry. He's one of the 30 that got fired in the first season. But one of his greatest contributions to Star Trek was they wanted a villain. They came up with the Ferengi, but they realized the Ferengi suck. They're Ferengi. They're a fun group of aliens, but they're not going to inspire. They're not going to scare you. They're not scary. They're very comical, and they realized, the Ferengi they weren't the answer to what they were. They wanted a race that would scare the bejeebers out of people, and so this guy created the Borg, and he did a great job. That's his best awesome contribution to Star Trek. But anyways, after the commercial break, we find out Picard and crew are stuck in a causality time loop, kind of like Groundhog Day, and they keep blowing up over and over again, reliving the same day. Deja vu sets in, and the number 3 starts appearing everywhere. And they're like, they keep saying, "Hey, I feel like we've done this before," and so deja vu. And then soon they discover a time-space vortex with Dr. Frasier Crane captaining a Federation ship from the past that had mysteriously disappeared. And the two ships keep crashing into each other, and the explosion pushes both ships backwards in time where they relive it all over again, but don't remember the crash. All they have is that sense of deja vu. And eventually Data discovers he can send himself a really quick message, like a 1 character or 1 second message that could travel backwards in time with the ship just as they explode. So Data sends himself the number 3. And as they realize they're trapped in a Groundhog Day scenario, now they're trying to figure out what the number 3 means. And eventually, when Dr. Frasier Crane shows up again for the 30th time, because they were stuck in that loop for 30 days in a row. They had exploded their ship and came back to life. So when Dr. Frasier Crane shows up, Data realizes Riker has 3 pips on his collar, which gives him the rank of commander, and that the crew should do what Riker suggests, and both ships survive. Kirstie Alley was also slated to appear and reprise her role as Lieutenant Saavik in Khan, but couldn't make it due to scheduling conflicts, and that would have been so cool to see the 2 stars of Cheers appearing together with Picard. Now, I bring all this up because I was listening to a guy on YouTube. He claimed to come back from the dead, He said he met his guardians, and he told them they all use numbers to communicate with us. Numbers can either be a warning or an announcement of good news or confirmation that you made the correct choice or are doing something that is pleasing to God. Maybe God knows you are down, and the guardians send a number just to say hi. He said he noticed that when he saw 66, it was a warning something bad was about to happen, like 66 miles per hour. He would slow down if he was speeding and narrowly avoid missing an accident. Now, other people may see a 111 or a 1111, and they automatically know that's a good sign because something always good happened. when that number pops up. So this guy on YouTube claims our guardian angels use numbers to communicate with us. So you may want to pay attention to seeing if a number shows up during your good or bad times. And I believe him because I thought I'd share this with all of you. Happy Friday. Today's 8/18. Maybe that's a good sign for some of you. Wisconsin hugs. And then I actually made a comment here. And here we go. My friend Barbara White from Michigan, she says, I know a few people who consider numbers in their daily life, and I'll have to pay more attention. Thanks for posting, and here's what I wrote here. I said, yeah, same with me as well. 234 seems to pop up when things are going well for me, and I thought it was a coincidence, so that vid caught my attention. And sure enough, yeah, Monday morning I'm hauling 53-234. So maybe it's a sign that things are going well, and hopefully I'm doing something right. I was watching I was driving my semi truck and I was listening to different people talking about their afterlife experiences, the ones that died and came back. And I'm getting up there in age now. I'm like 54, so it's I'm starting to realize there's more years behind me than are in front of me, and so you want to you hope that you leave a positive impact in the world, and that's what you want to do, and that's probably why I put videos up. It was interesting. I was watching, Chris Watts' wife. I forgot her name, but somebody put together a video of all her videos that she ever did, and somebody wrote something like I would unfriend that lady in a minute if I because she would drive me nuts. And I thought, wow. I mean, I'm thankful the videos are there because, she made these videos, and I don't care if they're goofy or whatever, but she probably had no idea. Her husband was in these videos with her, and I'm sure, even when she made them, they were struggling in their marriage because obviously she knew he was having an affair. And she was trying to save their marriage and trying to save their family, and she was hoping they could work things out. But she made these videos, and then he, she's gone because he killed her, and she, that's all we have left. We at least she left something of herself there that for everybody to see and say, hey, this is who I was. This is. I was this person. This is what I was doing in my life. There was nothing. She just seemed like the sweetest, nicest person in the world, And she loved her husband, even though he was messing around on her. She loved her kids. She loved her family. And she didn't deserve to die for that. She didn't. But she at least left behind those videos. And maybe someday, her children are gone too, so they won't get to see it either. But the rest of us, she left something there for us to see, and look at. And that's kind of why I make these videos too. But I try to, keep things positive for the most part. Maybe once in a while I might put something negative up, and then you're like wondering, why the hell is his channel called Wisconsin Hugs? He's not a very huggy person. And you know what? I can't debate that with you. You got a point there. I call it Wisconsin Hugs because when I joined Facebook a long time ago, I'm from Minnesota, but I'm a transplant. I moved and I lived in Wisconsin. Now I've lived more years in Wisconsin than I have in my home state of Minnesota. So most of my Facebook friends and family live in Minnesota. They grew up in Minnesota, and I would say 75% of them still live in the area where they grew up or nearby the area they grew up. A lot of them never left the state, and nothing wrong with that. But that's Minnesota's a beautiful state, and I can see why they did what they did. I wound up moving around, and that's what I did with my life, and I have no regrets about that. But I settled in Wisconsin. I got married. I raised kids, and now I'm where I'm at now in my life, and so I would like, when I got done writing something, I would sign off with Wisconsin Hugs. And I remember, when I announced I was going to start a YouTube channel, and somebody, I just called it by my name, like Tony Grillo, and and somebody, one of my Facebook friends wrote to me, one of my classmates wrote and said, you need to come up with a catchy title or something, for your channel. You have to have a name, a channel name. And so I looked at, all the different YouTube channels out there, and there's, all their names, and I thought, okay, I probably need to come up with something. And then I just thought, well, why don't I just call it Wisconsin Hugs? Because then people will know that, hey, I'm out of Wisconsin. Because half the time people have their YouTube channels, I have no idea where they're living. If they're living in Alaska or if they're living in California, I really don't know unless they say where they are. I have no clue where they're at or where they're out of. They could be in Wisconsin and I wouldn't know. So I thought, well, I'll do that, and then at least people will know where I'm at. But we're talking about spirituality stuff, and the one guy that said he met with his guardians, he was a Christian, and he was saved by Jesus. I gotta stop for a sec. This gentleman just got me unloaded. But there was another gentleman that was an atheist, and he talked about his near-death experience. And he also had something interesting to say, and I'll just real quick go through it. I don't want to sit there and replay his video. I probably should, but I really don't want to. But he talked about the fact that he was an atheist, and instantly when he was transported, when he was into that world, the spiritual world, he saw his body. He left his body. He saw him laying there. He instantly knew he was, in the spiritual world, and he saw Jesus, and he knew who Jesus was. Even though he was an atheist, he realized, Jesus is real, and there is heaven, and he was not in heaven. And I think he was in a place like purgatory. I don't think he knew what the word was for it, but he said it was like a place in between. But he heard himself being judged, and he got to see his life. He relived his life right before his eyes, and this is a common theme that I hear a lot from, because Jesus didn't save him, he didn't have Jesus there, and I'm not saying Jesus is the only thing. You still have to live, according to how Jesus wants you to live. You still have to, you can't just get into heaven just because you believe in Jesus. And so, but he was saying, like, his whole life flashing, he realized how bad he treated people throughout his entire life. And he said, basically, this atheist said it comes down to, when you get judged, it comes down to, does the good outweigh the bad? Okay, and even if you smile at someone, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. That counts on your weight, as to whether, you have a scale. You have good, bad, okay, and which side's heavier? Which side's heavier? If you even smile at a person, guess what? More good outweighs the bad. And he said in his case, he was seeing his whole life flash in front of him, and then he was judged at that moment, and the bad outweighed the good, and it was announced. He heard the announcement. He actually said he heard the announcement. Bad outweighs the good, and then he was cast into hell. He knew he was in hell, and he said it was just the most awful place you could ever be. It was hot. It was dark. There were monsters there, hideous monsters that hated you, and they would grab you and throw you into a prison cell. And he says that's what hell is. It's a big jail, is what it is. And it's misery and pain and suffering. Basically, what it is, it's a mental thing. It's like you relive every bad thing that you do over and over and over and over again. And that's what it is. The gnashing of teeth is like the Bible says, which is a great phrase. I mean, the Bible comes up with some really creative ways of describing stuff, and gnashing of teeth is not a place that I want to be. I'm going to tell you that, and I'm telling that for anybody that's not a believer. This is why I'm saying this, And so he was there, and he said that he actually saw Hitler, which that caught my attention. He said Hitler had a special cell where he was, and here's the thing: everybody can see everybody's sins, whether you're in heaven or hell or whatever. Everybody, there's no secrets at all. I mean, he said, you see everything. Everything's is put out there. And so he could see Hitler's sins, and what was going on with Hitler was that he was for every victim, there were 6 million Jews that got murdered during the Holocaust. He was reliving every single person that was affected, every single Jew that was killed by his regime. He was reliving their entire moments, from the moment they were, told to go to the concentration camps, to what happened in the camps, to the way they died. He actually lived everything that they did over and over for every single person, 6 million people. And he said when he saw Hitler, he said Hitler looked like his mind was gone. Like he was, he was just, not there. He was just like a vegetable, basically. And that's what he had to say about that. So it was really interesting. It was really interesting watching, and I've, I drive, 11 hours a day. So, I pick different topics. On that one particular day, I decided to pick that topic, and on a different day I'll pick something else entirely different to listen to, like aliens or whatever, and have some fun with that. And I'm probably going to do a video about that too, because there's some interesting things I want to talk about with what's going on with aliens, and the fact that Congress had a meeting about aliens, and I want to talk about that too. But so that's all I have to say about the first part of my video. I think the second part of my video, I'm going to tell you all about something that happened in Watertown, Wisconsin. And then my channel is Wisconsin Hugs. I like to talk about Wisconsin news. And this happened not that long ago in Watertown, Wisconsin, which actually I lived in that city for a little while. And then I moved to Kleiman, Wisconsin, and I was living there, and that's where I met my wife, and which now I'm divorced, but we were married like 12 years, and I met her in Kleiman, which is a little tiny town of like, I don't know, 300 people, I think. And then I was also a member of the volunteer fire department, and then I also lived in Reeseville, and I lived in Lowell. I lived in those two communities as well. And I served on the fire department with Lowell, and between the two departments I was there probably like 20 years, and I worked for a company. The trucking company I work for right now is in those two cities, is in Lowell and Reeseville. So, And interesting little tidbit, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, actually made a movie in Reeseville, Wisconsin, and the title of the movie is called Reeseville, because if you ever spell Reeseville, it's Reeseville, and the guy apparently that made the movie, he went to New York. He was actually from the area, and then he went to study movie making skill in New York. And then he decided, when he graduated from college, he decided to come back to Wisconsin. He wanted to make a movie in his home state where he grew up, and so he went back to Reeseville, and he hired Mark Hamill to be in the movie. And he liked the name Reeseville because within the name of Reeseville, it spells the word evil. So he wrote out Reeseville in white letters, but then EVIL, in Ville. Reeseville, he wrote those in red, so you saw evil within the word Reeseville, and so that's what he titled the movie. And it's a grade B movie, but it was a little weird. It's a little weird, but it is kind of fun to watch because you see all the areas where they shot. And apparently, they had a house in Reeseville that they were filming. In one of the scenes, they have this body that's like tacked up to the ceiling of the living room, and the people that lived in that house said that body was so realistic looking that they asked that body to be covered up, a fake body. They asked for it to be covered up when they weren't shooting, because they still lived in that house while they were filming the movie there. But so now the next story I'm going to talk about, and here's the interesting thing too. The area that you live in, most of Wisconsin, Wisconsin's considered like a purple state now, red, blue state. It's a battleground state. We've had a Republican governor, and now we have a Democrat governor. We have one Republican senator. We have one Democrat senator. So, and 1 year when Trump won his election, he actually won Wisconsin. He won the vote, and then when he lost the election, he also lost Wisconsin. So it is considered a battleground state. But the way it works in Wisconsin is Madison, Milwaukee. There's between those two cities, there's like 1.5 million people that live within those two cities, and then that population outnumbers the rest of the entire state. And so it's really, and those two cities are very, very liberal cities. So it's really hard for a Republican governor to win, or a Republican senator. And so the fact that Republicans have won in Wisconsin and Trump won in Wisconsin is amazing. It's amazing that happened. And that means that there had to have been voters in those cities that switched sides and decided to vote the other way, even though they were liberal. Or the Republicans came out in huge numbers and voted. So it's a very conservative, the areas outside of those two, we call them like the island within the state, they're two islands, the island of, of Madison, the island of Milwaukee. But anyways, the surrounding communities, the little towns, all that, they're very conservative, very red, okay? So it's really weird that Watertown, Wisconsin had this story pop up, and it concerns a young man, and it concerns apparently there was a trans parade going on, a parade supporting the trans community, and this parade was going on, and this young man got arrested at this parade because he was reading the Bible. And so I'm going to talk about that story next. So this is in Watertown, Wisconsin. This video has got 4,735 comments. I'm not sure how many times it's been viewed. It's got 30,000 likes, and so let's play it. Oh.
Serve one another. bite and devour one another. Beware lest you be consumed by one another.
Hey, what are you doing?
What is the problem?
I have my location.
What's wrong?
What are you doing?
I just didn't have my hand. You didn't give him any warning. You just grabbed the mic.
No, this is the same one that we had in here. Yeah, that was in there. It was not out here. What are you doing? You didn't give us any warning. Let it go. You guys have been warned.
They said they said we can speak out here on the sidewalk freely.
You can speak, but there's no amplified.
Nobody told us that.
What do you got?
Well, how come there's no amplification? Hey, you guys are acting like thugs, man. You're like straight up thugs.
Hey, you're taking away my hand.
He has every right to be out here engaging in speech. He has every right to be out here engaging in speech. There's cars driving by with their...
Wisconsin Bible reader stuns council meeting after his arrest. Yeah, this young kid actually went to the city council board and had some words to say to them following his arrest. So here's a story here. When Watertown, Wisconsin police arrested Marcus Schroeder for reading the Bible at an all-ages Saturday drag event, the news stunned conservatives. Now, less than a week after his arrest, Schroeder has changed the tone from one of shock to one of hope. And let's see. Here's Marcus Schroeder, the young man arrested for reading the Bible at a drag queen event in Watertown, Wisconsin, preached the gospel to the city council and residents concerned about Nazis.
Guys, I hope you're all doing good tonight. I just wanted to ask a simple question. I know, a Nazi group showed up at the event Saturday and people were talking about that, and I just wanted for all of us to really think about this. What's wrong with Nazism? Like, seriously, what's wrong with Nazism? Because imagine for a moment that there is no God above us, no hell below us, no heaven to live for, as John Lennon wanted to imagine. If we are truly the result of evolved stardust and our ancestors were fish and we're the descendants of monkeys, then where do we find our value as human beings? What's wrong with Nazism? Unless if you understands that the God of Scripture says that we are made in His image. And so to murder innocent people is a violation to God's commands. As a Christian, I can say that what the Nazis did in Nazi Germany was completely horrific and that they should have been resisted. In fact, the number one people group that resisted the Nazis were Christians. And the reason why was because they had a worldview that says that people are made in God's image and that they have worth and value. That's why Nazism is wrong. But if we're going to reject the Christian worldview, then we can't hold on to the fruit that comes from the Christian worldview while denying the actual foundation. Intolerance is an interesting word. Tolerance, intolerance, hatred, love, bigotry, things like that. Because really every culture has something that it's intolerant towards and something that it's tolerant of. I mean, there are things like murder and rape and stealing and just crimes that we are intolerant towards as a society. And so every society has something it's intolerant towards. The question is just, what is our object of intolerance and what is our object of tolerance? When I showed up Saturday, all I did was read from Scripture on the sidewalk. I read from the Bible, Galatians. And by the way, I wasn't reading Romans 1. I wasn't reading any passage that spoke against homosexuality or anything like that. I was reading a passage from the Bible about love. And I was arrested. No reason, not given any warning, not told anything about my amplification needing to be turning down. I was arrested and taken into custody simply for reading the Bible on the sidewalk. You see, as we become more and more tolerant of sexual immorality in our culture, we become more and more intolerant towards Christian morality. And the more we become intolerant towards Christian morality, the more we're going to see lawlessness in our streets. The more we become intolerant of Christian morality, the more we're going to see Nazis. The more we're going to see people who don't hold to a Christian worldview, who think that everybody is a result of animals, and therefore if we are animals, then why can't we just act like animals? We were called a hate group. We were told that we don't want to understand the other side, and I just want to set the record straight. I am more than happy to have that conversation with the other side. I did speech and debate throughout high school, and one of the things that we were taught in debate is that you can't make an argument for your side until you're able to make the argument for the other side. I've sat down and had hours of discussions with LGBTQ activists. I completely understand the other side. I want to understand the other side. But drag queens twerking on kids in lingerie is unacceptable. And that's something that we have to notice as a culture. We can have our disagreements, but there comes a time when we have to understand that we are all going to stand before God one day. And we're going to have to give an account for what we have done with the children in our society, the innocent minds, and the children who deserve to be protected. Thank you.
You know, that kid said it perfect. And there's nothing more I can add to what he said. He did a great job. So I'm just out walking DJ. So you guys all have a great night. And yeah, hope I catch you again. Wisconsin hugs.